And hello, this is Wakasm Plays Board Games and Video Games. And today we are doing a review of a board game that I just recently discovered called Signal. I had not heard of it until I played it and then decided to immediately buy it. So that should give you some indication if this review is going to be a good or a bad one. Let's just kind of get started and see how this review goes. So first, how I found it. I discovered it at a local meetup. I've been recently getting back into the board game world of meetups as my son has gotten a little bit older now. I can have a little bit more free time to do that. I used to do it a lot many years ago, then kind of stopped for 4 or 5 years, and starting to do it. And someone brought this, and I saw it on a little table, and I don't know, the box was very minimalistic and black and white, caught my eye. I immediately thought it might be like some sort of puzzle game, and I was like, hey, let's play that. And we sat down and played it, and I immediately got hooked. And like I said, I bought it right after playing it the first time. So what is the game? So it is not a solo game. So I'll say that right now. A lot of the content on this channel that I do tends to be very solo specific, or cooperative stuff that I can do by myself. I do this as a hobby. I'm not really a professional reviewer or anything like that. The whole story at how I started doing this, but trying to grow my channel. But I don't tend to always review games that are like multiplayer. A lot of the stuff I do is solo. So this is a cooperative deduction and communication puzzle style game. Although I don't really know how much content on this channel that I share about this, but I tend to really like logical deduction games. I have a couple friends that I exclusively play logical puzzly games, or like when one of us discovers something, we share it with each other. So there's a lot of video games, like, I don't know, if you ever played Return to Obra Dinn, puzzle games like that, or on the board game side, any kind of logical puzzle deduction game I'm always down for. So Turing Machine, Search for Planet X. There's all kinds of games that I should be able to ramble off my head that, of course, now that I'm recording, I can't think of. Maybe I'll do a video of logical puzzle games at some point. I should probably start doing like top 10 lists and whatnot. But yeah, I'm not ready for that yet, but maybe one day. But anyway, I'm really into those type of games. So I didn't even know that this was that kind of game. And then when I played it, I was pleasantly surprised. But what is it? Let's kind of cover what it is first, and then we'll get back to the review. So in this game, one player is an alien, and all the others are what they call experts. And you're basically trying to communicate with the alien to create a pattern. So, I'll just give you an example. I'll hold up a card. So this is the pattern that, you get for your first game. You're trying to arrange components to get this, like, I don't know, white cube, black cube, like in a rectangle shape symbol. I don't know what you call it. Pattern is what you call it. And you're trying to communicate using pieces, which again, I'll show at the table in a second. But the components are very simple. You know what? I'll just switch to the components. I think that would probably just make more sense. So this is what I'm going to be teaching in a second, so we can ignore that. But yeah, the components are very simple. There's just a bunch of shapes. You have like discs. You have these little triangle pieces. You have these little rods. You have cubes. And then you have a bunch that are black, a bunch that are white. And then these stars are not part of the puzzle. These are like for tracking points, which I'll get to in a second. And, generally like the one that I just showed you, you are trying to communicate with the alien in such a way where you would end up with this pattern. Or if you want to use the one that I'm about to teach, we're trying to get a pattern that looks something more along these lines: a triangle, a square, a circle, and a rod. Like if you do whatever you do, if you kind of get that shape that matches the shape on the card, then you win. You pass the round. There can be multiple rounds. I think there's always 3, but there might not always be 3 in every puzzle, every alien that you're trying to communicate with. I've only played through the first 3 aliens so far. So the game comes with 25 of them. So there are a lot. I don't know if there's any twists or turns when it comes to that formula, but my understanding is there's usually 3 rounds to the puzzle. And yeah, so I'll explain more as we go. So yeah, very simple components. Then there's this mat. There's these ability cards, which I'll talk about. And then generally speaking, you can't see it here, but this is like where you would put the card, and the alien would be sitting on this side where the green cube is. And I kind of have these cubes up here to represent people. So these color cubes have nothing to do with the game. I don't know. I thought it was a neat little way to say this is the alien side, and you know, this might be 3 humans, it could be 4 people, 2 people. I played it with 2 people. You could do it one-on-one, but yeah, there's one alien and a bunch of experts trying to communicate. So yeah, so there's a lot of logical experimentation that goes on. You know, that's what it works. So how does it work? An alien gets a card, and again, I think it's always 3, but I'm not 100% sure. And on the card itself, there's 3 secret rules. So let me switch over to this. For this card, I have the back blurred because this is like a teaching example that they give or that they made up, which I actually haven't played yet. So I'm going to be doing this in real time, and it might go horribly. I probably should have like scripted a solution to this, but I'm going to try to do it in real time and do both sides. I don't know how well it's going to go, but the left side that's not blurred, this is what players would see, and the alien is called teaching. The pattern is called not touching, and you know, there's a little bit of like flavor. They're eager to show us their games. They want us to understand the rules, why they want to play, and there's a lot of like abstract messages. Obviously this is like a teaching alien. These are the devs. They're, you know, trying to give us something to show. And then, like I said, the alien sees 3 rules, which I have blurred right now, and that's how they communicate. So that's what they see. So the players do not see the rules, just to make that clear. So now we're kind of like on the players side of things. And what's going to happen is the experts are going to put pieces however they want onto this little mat here. And you know, at first things are a little bit intimidating because the first time you play, like the rules are kind of loose. They're like you're following a logical puzzle, but it's also very loose. I don't know how to explain it other than when you play, you'll kind of understand. But the players can do anything they want. They could just put the pieces randomly like this. And they can choose whatever pieces they want to. Usually, at least in our experience, the players kind of throw something in relation to the pattern. The only rule is that you cannot actually start with the pattern. So as a first guess, you can't just guess the pattern. You can do things that are close to the pattern. Like I could do, you know, the same pieces in the pattern. We just put them in like different orientation. You know, let's say the pattern was, I don't know, we were trying to end up with this. They're all touching. I could start with a pattern that like has them not touching or like slightly aligned. But as long as it's not one-to-one to the pattern, you can start with anything that you want. And of note, notice that the pattern has nothing to do with the circle, this little like space. I don't know what you call this. To me, it looks like a universe space map, like stars or like a galaxy or something. I don't actually know what this is supposed to be. The rulebook might actually say what it is, but I don't know. I didn't get to read the rulebook before playing. We were just kind of taught the game. But yeah, the players are going to put pieces on the board, and they're trying to get this. So just for example purposes, we'll pretend like the players put the pieces out like this. So it's a different shape. Actually, this probably wouldn't work. This would work because the final shape too can be mirrored, right? It doesn't have to be like exact. It also doesn't have to be proportionate either. For instance, let's just say this was the correct shape as well. Sorry, I'm kind of going back and forth. Like I said, I didn't prep this. This also works. It's the same shape, like just further out. This would also work as the answer, right? So anyway, this clearly is not the shape because we have 2 black pieces and 2 white pieces versus how it was, but we'll say that the players guessed this. And to be clear, this is the triangle, square, disc, and rod. So like I said, the game's played over 3 rounds, I think, always. And every round you have 10 guesses. That's what these stars are. Now there's not supposed to be any communication. So, well, there's not supposed to be any communication between the alien and players. Like they don't talk to each other. So the players make their guess, and there's a word for what this is. These are transmission tokens, so we're sending like a transmission, I guess, to the universe for them to communicate back. And once you hand over the transmission token, then the alien will do something to the pieces to communicate back. So I will do what I think needs to happen right now. And all right, so I'm going to be the alien, and I'm going to do a communication back. So this is what the alien's response might be to this. Okay, so the alien has responded, and as you can see, we're left with a different shape. The alien would then take this, and now it would be up to players to try to figure out what just happened. Why did we add a triangle? Why did the rod go away? What's going on here? So then they might start fresh. They might say, all right, well, let's try without a triangle, and let's put down 2 rods. And what else happened? Maybe this, and what are the colors that we're aiming for? Black. So they might try something like this, and then they'll offer up a transmission token. So again, I'm doing both sides, and I didn't really plan this out, so I'm hoping this works out. I'm also trying not to have too many guesses. When I played for real, some of them took 6 guesses, some of them were easy, some of them were hard. Again, I'm just demoing the game right now, so you'll get an idea. And again, this card that I'm teaching is not in the box. This is something that the devs made specifically for teaching, so this also doesn't really spoil anything too much. It just gives you a really clear idea how the game works. But anyway, the alien would then communicate, and they would do the following. They would do something like this. They would do something like this. And then they would do this. Now, this is pretty close to what we're looking for, except for the fact that it's triangle, square, rod, disc. So, we don't quite get the transmission. So they might do the same thing, but they might instead try to put these in a better spot. So maybe they'll do something like this. They'll put the disc here and the cube here, and then they'll offer up a transmission. Then the alien might do this, 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 this. And as you can see, we've gotten our pattern, right? So I'm going to do things a little bit differently now. Now, normally when you would play, what would happen right now is, since we got it on the 3rd transmission, there is a scoring system. For every guess per round that you get a point. So we would get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We would write that down. And so far we have 7 points. The points don't really matter, but the rulebook says that if you get 20 points, you've done really well. But really, you're just trying to get through all 3 of the rules. Okay, so here's where things get interesting now. All right, the experts, they figured out a rule. They got it within 10 transmissions, and so now they're going to try again. Okay, so now what happens is there's now a second rule that has to happen, and the second rule now happens after the first rule. So we'll talk about that in a second. So we're going to go back to 10 guesses now, and typically what's going to happen on the first guess is the players will just do exactly what they did the first time. All right, so they'll present what they, I think actually this is what they had as their previous winning guess, and they're going to be like, all right, we got this. So they communicate to the alien, they offer up their transmission. And now the alien's going to do something like this. They're going to do, I'll add a triangle, they'll remove a rod, they will do this. And then now they're going to do this. And then they might do something like this. And then they might do that. So what just happened? Okay, we had a working solution, and then now it doesn't work anymore. The aliens are trying to communicate to us, and they're saying, well, you know, this got more complicated. You guys aren't really close, and try again. And play will go back and forth like this. So, you know, there was some obvious stuff that seemed like it made sense. For instance, all the colors of the pieces got swapped, so the players might notice that. But we lost another rod. Okay, so that's something that we have to account for. And then we had a cube placed as well, so now we have to account for that as well. So what do we do? All right, well, let's try again. Let's see if we can figure this out. Now I'm actually trying to figure this out in real time while teaching this, because like I said, I haven't prepped this. I do happen to know what the answers are because I'm playing the alien side, but we know we lost the rod, right? That was something that happened, and we know these usually get swapped, right? And then we also noticed that all the colors changed, so we're gonna try to outthink that part, and we're gonna swap all the colors now and hope that that's actually what's happening. But we also had a cube get added, and don't know why that happened. So we're gonna try without a cube. Okay, so then this is gonna be our communication again. And now the alien's going to communicate back. So actually, yeah, so we're actually not gonna do that. We're gonna start like this. Again, I'm shortcutting it a little bit for teaching purposes. Again, it might take the players a lot more time to understand the nuance of like why we're doing things. But the alien will respond like this. The triangle, he'll remove a rod. The disc will stay here this time. And again, they won't be talking. I'm narrating this for video purposes, but they'd be doing this all silently. Then they would do this. Then they would do this. And then this. So now we're really, really close. And you could probably argue that this actually counts because I do believe mirrored patterns would work. But we did get really close. One thing that didn't happen from our previous solution was this didn't swap this time, and we're not really sure why. I mean, we can guess as to why, or maybe you can guess as to why if you're following along. But we could redo it again and just start this on this side, and then the alien would put it on this side, and then we would end up with the correct solution. So again, we could have gotten that in 2 guesses. Maybe it would take your group 4 or 5 or 6 guesses. Again, it really depends on how intuitive your guessing is. Again, speeding through this and putting answers that like mostly will work. But you right now as a player who's never played before might not understand what's going on, or you might be figuring out, okay, I understand what's happening. What's cool about this game is that you don't really need to know, like you just need to get to the right answer, and there's a lot of trial and error, and you get to experiment to get to that answer. So you're putting the pieces on, you're experimenting, and when things feel right to you, you might get to the right answer. It might not even have the rules correct, or maybe you will. But yeah, that's like the general gist. So we'll do one more round now. We're on to the 3rd round. We would have gotten another 8 points in this scenario because we got it in 2 guesses. So we're up to like 16 points already. Before I continue, we didn't talk about these cards. These are ability cards that the alien can use to help the players. If you don't use them, then you just get these as like extra bonus points at the end, 3, 2, and 1. But if like the aliens really have thinking that the experts are having a really tough time, they can like use one of these, and like for instance, this will allow the alien to remove any piece. So I don't know if like we were putting one too many cubes on or something, but we were really close to the answer. They could use this ability to just to do this at the beginning. This would allow us to move up the 2 pieces to kind of help the players if they keep like putting things in the wrong spot. This would allow them to actually read out loud a rule from a previous round. So we'll do that right now. We'll pretend like we're having a hard time, and we will read out a rule from a previous round so that you guys can see what's actually happening. We'll lose 3 bonus points, but I think this will kind of help with the illusion a little bit of what's going on. So instead of reading it, I'm just going to reveal it and then read it. So this is what the alien sees. For the first rule is called show. Alien must place 1 triangle. They must remove 1 rod, and then they must swap 1 cube and 1 disc. So if you were following along, that's what happened. They would always place a triangle, which made the players realize if they start without a triangle, the alien will add a triangle. They always remove 1 rod, and then they swap 1 cube and 1 disc. So another aspect to this game that I didn't really talk about is that I don't know how to explain it, but a lot of logical deduction games are really finite. Like they're very strict with the rules. Like the rules have to be very strict to work. They're usually very mathematical in a sense. This, when you're playing as the alien, and this is actually what really sold me on the game, almost feels like a tabletop RPG because you're kind of role playing as an alien. And even though you have to follow these rules, a lot of leeway sometimes with how you can implement the rules as the alien. Sometimes it's very straightforward, like you're just replacing it. But like as an example, like just going back to our setup, when I place the triangle, like I don't have to place it here. I could place it here, 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 or here as an alien, right? I mean, again, for this particular setup, placing it here makes the most sense. But if like the players were doing something weird and all of a sudden it wasn't working anymore, sometimes the alien's ability to like follow the rules but not really follow the rules like intuitively, like how you would immediately think, sometimes can clue into the players. Because again, it's a cooperative game. The alien wants the players to guess what they're doing. Like it's not like they're trying to outwit the players. They're trying to get the players to help. And it's very interesting how as the alien you can often interpret the rules. And it hasn't really happened in this game yet, but trust me, when you start doing some of the actual aliens from the game, you're gonna realize like I could do it this way or I could do it this way, and different ways will help the players figure out. And then also you get to hear the players talk, which I don't know. It might be cool to play a variant where you can't hear the players talk, like really simulating being across like the universe. But you can tell when the players are getting it wrong or they're overthinking or doing something. So you get to kind of act as like a game master and like fudge the rules a little bit and interpret the rules in a way that like makes it easier for them. It's not like strictly math, even though it's a logic puzzle, which is something that I feel like doesn't happen that often. And I know the first time I was the alien, I got really nervous because I was like, this is correct, but is it correct? Will this be enough? Is this pushing the rules too far? But then like it worked, and everyone agreed, oh no, that was a really good interpretation of the rule. I wouldn't even have thought about it like that. So anyway, we will do the last rule together now, and then we'll get back and we'll show how everything goes, and then we'll cover all the rules, and then we'll talk about the game more, and then I'll give you my final opinions. So now I have to remember what the solution that we went with last time was. I think it was this. No, we said we weren't going to start with that. We are going to start with this, right? Maybe we want it on this side. And I think that's it. I think that's what we said we wanted to start with. I think that was our solution that won us the last round. So now we're going to do the following. Now we're up to all 3 rules the alien has to interpret. So as before, the alien is going to add a triangle. And again, you guys know the rules now, so I guess I can show that a little bit. We're going to place a triangle, we're going to remove 1 rod, and then we're going to swap 1 cube and 1 disc. Okay? So you know that because I played my power, but I also did it to kind of show you how the game works a little bit. We added a triangle, and again, I could have added a white triangle, but because I want you guys to succeed and I know the colors are going to swap, I'm adding a black triangle now. I'm going to remove a rod, and then the last rule, swap 1 cube and 1 disc. Well, I don't have to do it because there is no cube. I don't have to do the swap. Then I'm going to change all the colors to their appropriate colors. Actually, sorry, you're not actually supposed to know that. I'm just narrating what I'm doing. Then I'm going to place a cube. Again, I'm just narrating what I'm doing. Then I'm going to remove a rod. And that's a familiar pattern. Now I'm going to do rule 3, which again, as the alien, I'd be doing this silently. And this is rule 3. Okay, what just happened? So now the players are like, what? What? And you know, now as a player, you're going to be wondering, well, what do I do? All of our pieces just vanished. We're not even close. Where do we start? And this is where the game gets very interesting. Like, this is a really fun rule set to work with. Like you could comment right now before I, spoil the answer, but like, how would you tackle what just happened? What would your thought process be? Like, so far all the rules kind of made sense, but now what, right? So we're going to rewind it a little bit, and we're going to get to, actually, I guess we'll start over again. So you're the players again. You're going to offer up another transmission. You kind of know you need to do this. Well, what are some things that we can do? What are things we haven't tried yet? Sorry, I'm trying to reverse how this is supposed to go. Well, let's try something like this. Let's double up everything. Let's put 2 discs down. They're supposed to be stacking on each other. My only complaint about the game is that this uses a cloth. I'll get to that, but for some reason the folds make it hard to stack pieces. So you sometimes have to move it. Like, I tried when we played, I always wanted to put pieces on like perfect things, but because this is a cloth, the pieces like fall over. It's like really my only complaint. So we're just gonna move them down here. I don't know if the cloth itself ever becomes a property in any of the puzzles. Like, it'd be really cool if like you have to fold the board or something, but I don't know why this couldn't just be a flat piece of cardboard for this exact reason. Aesthetically, the cloth looks fine, but this is my only complaint I have with the game so far. But anyway, let's stack some pieces. And again, I'm doing this to kind of lead this along, but let's put all these on top of each other, because that's an aspect that you have to consider. And actually, I didn't talk about this, but the box itself actually kind of has a really good inside the box. They give you the rules for the game, so you get like to transmit and then respond, but they do tell you things to think about of why pieces might be moved, and it generally has to do with their alignment, their color, if they're contacting each other. That's what I'm trying to lead you into right now. Their distance from each other, where they are in the mat lines, mat shapes, their orientation might matter, the patterns, how many there are, shape, stacking. Another one I'm trying to experiment with right now, and symmetry. These are all parts of the rules that would potentially affect like what's going on. So again, I'm leading you with the right answer for this one a little bit, just for sake of time, but you might take 5 guesses before you even think to stack pieces, or you might take like more guesses to even like figure out what you might even want to experiment with. So anyway, we're going to see what happens with this setup now. So again, we're going to do this. Again, you know that I'm going to place a triangle, and we know we're going to remove 1 rod. We'll do it like this, I guess. You know what? We'll put the rods like this because it's just a little bit easier to visualize. we would swap one disc and a cube. We don't have that. Now you don't really know what the rules are, so we'll see if the rules hold up with what we've done. And so far, they are holding up with what we've done. Okay. Here we go. Sorry, I have pieces over here that are not in camera. So let's have 5 of everything. And also there is a rule, you can only ever have 10 pieces on the board too. So that is something like you can't just throw all the pieces on. Now the alien gets to choose, and the alien's gonna do this actually. And then oops, sorry, we forgot to do something. I apologize. This is what we were supposed to be having done. And then we're gonna do this. Okay, so can you spot what happened and what's different? All right, so we're closer. We're still missing pieces, but notice they all didn't get wiped this time. And if you're the player, you're like, huh, well, we did something to leave some of the pattern up, but what did we do? What's the property that did it? So, you know, you might play around again. You might do a bunch of more guesses. Again, I'm kind of leading you because we're teaching, but now I'll put in a guess that will get us the right answer, and then we'll talk about everything, and then we'll cover my final thoughts on the subject of this game. So we'll do this. This was working. Now we're gonna do all right, I think this will work. I'm actually not sure, and I have the answer. So again, you can kind of see how complicated it is when I have the answer and I'm not even sure. Now it's not obvious, but I stacked 2 discs up on top of each other. Let's see if this works now. So first, we're gonna do this. Then we're gonna do this. And then we're gonna do this. And again, you know those rules. We added a triangle, we removed 1 rod, and then we swapped 1 cube and 1 disc. Then we're gonna do this. And then we're gonna do the following. And if I'm correct, this is our shape. And we've successfully communicated with the alien. And again, we did it in 2 turns because, you know, I'm speeding up and I know the answer. Probably if you were doing this for real, it would take a lot of guesses. But again, what just happened? You watched me do it, but you might not even understand why that worked or what's going on. So let's reveal all the rules one by one. So for the alien, we had to show. We had to place 1 triangle, remove 1 rod, swap 1 cube, and 1 disc. Step 2 was we had to explain. We had to replace all black pieces with white pieces and vice versa. Now keep in mind, I don't think you have to like replace a white triangle with a black triangle. It's just replace a white piece with a black piece. So there potentially could be a situation where like you lined everything up weird and the alien swaps them into place for you because you know, had them in the wrong spots. Okay, so that's kind of a way that the alien could help out, you know, using their creative side to interpret the rule. Um, Again, if you're like a rules person, I struggled with this a little bit on one of the aliens that I was the alien for, where like I was interpreting the rule really strictly, and then I kind of realized actually there's some leeway with how you do it. Then I had to place one cube, the alien had to place one cube, and then we had to remove one rod again. And then the last rule was remove all pieces not touching other pieces. So that first time where they all got wiped, it was because they were all single pieces not touching anything. And then once you keep all the pieces that are touching, the alien can remove any pieces that they want. So it's very much up to the alien to remove them in a way where all of a sudden you are successful. And then all of a sudden you have the signal and you guys have won the game. You'd count up your points. And that's it. That's the whole game. It's a very short game. It's like a 15-minute, maybe 20-minute game, depending on like how the guessing is going and how things are projecting or going. So, all right, that is not what I meant to do. All right, so let's talk about it. That's the game. That's the game in a nutshell. I just did a full game. I did both sides. I don't even know if I sold you on the game. It's very, very, very hard to articulate the game. And again, I did all that in real time. Like I probably again, like if I was like Rodney from Watch It Played or something, he probably would have like mapped out the puzzle, exactly how to swap things. Again, um, there's ways to do it, but all I can tell you is that the feeling of playing it versus seeing it are two totally different things. And again, like maybe I'm overhyping it a little bit. I don't know. I just know that very rare that I go play a game with strangers and immediately get like, I don't know, tense or creative. Like, I don't know, I play a lot of board games. Like, I've seen a lot of mechanics. Like, a lot of times I play a game and I'm like, oh, this is just that game or this is just that mechanic. But there was something about, especially when I was the alien, where I felt like nervous pressure to interpret it. Like, you have humans putting these pieces down and then you kind of stare for a second and you kind of smile and you're like, you want to make sure you get this right. And you're not allowed to say anything, so you got to go meticulously, rule by rule, show them what's happening. They don't even know sometimes where the first rule starts and the second rule starts and ends. So sometimes they're like how the pieces got wiped. That's like a very moment, like what just happened. And I imagine if you were playing that teaching puzzle and didn't know what was going on, you'd be like, what just happened? Like before you were just having these little moves. Now everything. And like of the first 3 aliens that I played, 2 of them had a moment like that where it was just like, what? So like I don't know what just happened. And then it took a couple of like experiments of, well, let's try this, let's try that, and we finally got there. So yeah, the whole being able to interpret, I think, comes out more when you're playing some of the actual aliens. It doesn't really show too much in this teaching puzzle, but it's very intentional that the alien can interpret the rules. Like as an example, I guess I'll just show you like an example. Um, let's just say the rule was take 2 pieces and move them away from each other. Well, the alien can interpret to move them this far or this far, or even like move this one completely off the board if it's like the wrong piece, right? Like it's just there's a lot of ways to interpret it once you're playing that it comes out. It just comes out, and again, it feels almost like you're a mini game master. And again, I don't have a ton of like being a DM or GM dungeon master experience, but I imagine it can be like that. And for me, I can get very nervous in that scenario. So for me, it was like, oh, this is fun. And the people that I played with had similar experiences. Like they were interpreting the rules, trying not to laugh. Like they were envisioning, oh no, this is like what's gonna happen, and they would kind of like smirk and laugh while doing the stuff because the players were really off, or they did something that was gonna like completely like wipe the board. Yeah. So playing as the guessing, the experts is also fun because you don't know where to start, so you just pick things and go, and then you have to interpret. But especially once you have the layered rules, it becomes more like, all right, I think I understand it. I think I understand it. But there is some challenging logic there. Again, it's not the most deep logic puzzle game. You know, Turing Machine or games like that have much deeper puzzles. But yeah, so why the game works? It's very quiet, smart, deliberate, short. Everything you do feels pretty meaningful. The whole nonverbal communication has like a little emotionness to it for how abstract it is. Definitely moments of laughing when you do stuff and it's like, what? Um, some downsides to the game is there are 25 aliens. Sorry, I don't have the camera. I should be doing it like this. Yeah, there we go. There are only 25 alien cards. So, if you're a very aggressive group of players and you just kind of bang them out, like, you're only going to get like 5 or 6 hours of play out of it. And then also, really, you can only experience the aliens once, right? So, I can't ever do that teaching one as a guesser ever again. I think the company that makes this, DVC Games, which I've never played any of their games before, but I'm kind of interested now after playing this. They do have like some templates for people to come up with their own puzzles. So I imagine like maybe if this game ever gets more popular, people might come up with puzzles. But that is the only negativity, is that, once I do all 25 aliens, I can never really be the guesser again unless I really forget how the puzzles work, which over time that might happen. But it's still very fun to be the alien. So now that I've already done the first 3 aliens, every time I teach it to new players, I can just always be the alien and then let them be an alien for 1 or 2 of them, so they get to experience both sides as well. Or I can just let them to be the alien and I just won't really like guess and, be very hands off on the puzzles. The mat design so far is the only real flaw I saw with the game. It is just a cloth, and like I said, I understand aesthetically why it's done. Like I said, I don't know if the fact that this is a cloth ever comes into play. It'd be cool if there was a puzzle that like holding it matters or something. I have no idea if the puzzle ever get wonky or if they just all kind of stay into this normal format of like just placing pieces. But I don't know why they couldn't have just done like a cardboard flat one, or this is the size of the box. They could have done it as like 2 cards, like a card that's the size of one box and another card that mirrors it, and do them side by side. That probably would work as well. But again, that's only because of, in my experience, when you try to stack things on the cloth mat, they fall, or they like, the triangles will often flip onto their side. Very, very minor though. So anyway, that's kind of my review, kind of a rules teach. I don't know. I just feel like it's a game that people should experience a little bit. You might like it if you like logical deduction games. It's not super expensive. I already forgot what I paid for mine. I want to say I paid like 25 bucks for it, but I'm not 100% sure. These are things I should remember. I'm usually doing my board game stuff late at night. Like right now it's 3 in the morning when I'm doing this, so my brain's not always there. But I probably would give this game like an 8.5 or 9. I do have a website where I'm in the process of ranking every game I've ever played and formatting them 1 to infinity, and also tiering them. These are very early impressions. Again, maybe I'll play 10 more aliens and the aliens won't be as cool, or maybe the puzzles start to feel repetitive, or I don't know. I can only go by what I played. I played the first 3 aliens and the teaching scenario with you, and again, it's just a very creative little game that you don't see that often. That just kind of is like a new thing or a twist on things. Like, nothing here felt like a mechanic I've done before. So it spoke to me. It might speak to you. I highly recommend it for fans of logic and deduction games, that sort of thing. So anyway, I'm wakasm. This is Signal by DVC Games. It's designed by Jasper Beatrix and illustrated by Crix Rose. Yeah, check it out. Not really much else to say it. It's for 2 plus players, 15 minutes, ages 10 and up. Your miles might vary. Wakasm. uh, just do a quick shout out to my couple Patreons, which I think I broke the script. Oh no. There we go. My couple patrons, you know who you are. I appreciate you. Again, I do this for fun, trying to grow my channel. So if you like this content, please give a review, like, subscribe, that sort of thing. And last but not least, future me with just two small things that I forgot to talk about. The game also comes with other ability cards other than the three that I mentioned, just something that gives the game a little bit more variability for when you're the alien, um, helping players, especially if they get stuck. And you're also allowed to take pictures, take notes, do whatever you want to help figure out the puzzle. I don't know if the puzzles get that hard where you actually need to do that. We didn't need to do that, but it is something that is you're allowed to do. Thanks for watching.